Hi guys, our job today is to learn how to multiply decimals. So some good news is that it isn't a whole lot different than multiplying whole numbers. We just have to figure out what to do with the decimal points. So one thing that's really important is you do not line up the decimal points. So when we added and we subtracted, we lined up the decimal points. When we're multiplying, we don't line up the decimal points. That's not how we figure out where the decimal point goes. A trick to making this a little bit easier for yourself is making sure that you put the number that has more digits in it on the top. That'll make your problem shorter. You're going to do just what you did when you multiplied whole numbers. You're going to multiply and then add up your answers on the bottom. That'll be in rows. You're going to remember that when you move over a digit, you put in your zero placeholders. So when you're on the second digit that you're multiplying, you add 1 0 in your answer. And when you're on the third number that you're multiplying, 2 zeros in your rows. And then finally, the key to figuring out where the decimal point goes when you do a multiplication problem is to count the number of decimal places in both numbers that you multiplied and move that many places from right to left in your answer to place your decimal point. Well, what does all that mean? Let's look at an example here. So my first example is 4 and 52 hundredths times 3 and 4 tenths. I'm going to put the number that has 3 digits on the top. It makes my multiplication problem shorter in the end. So 4 and 52 hundredths times 3 and 4 tenths. Didn't worry about lining up my decimal point at all. Now I'm going to multiply just as if there weren't any decimal points here. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 5 is 20. Put my 0 down, carry my 2. 4 times 4 is 16, plus the 2 more up here makes that 18. Moving over a digit, so add a 0 down here before we start that multiplication problem. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. Put my 5 down, carry my 1. 3 times 4 is 12, and 1 more is 13. Now I've got my 2 rows of answers. Just add them up like you have learned to do with whole numbers. 8 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 and 5 is 13. Carry my 1. 3, 4, 5, and then 1. Now, here's the magic. So I've got 1, 2, 3 numbers behind a decimal point in both numbers up here in the problem. So I move in from the right to the left, 1, 2, 3 spaces, and place my decimal point right there. So my answer to 5 and 52 hundredths times 3 and 4 tenths is 15 and 368 thousandths. Let's see if that makes sense. Remember, think money here. This is about $4 or $5. Would round up to $5. This is about $3. So $5 times $3, $15. Yep, we're right there. We're right where we need to be. Okay, let's look at some more examples. All right, our first example up here is 9 times 4 tenths. Now, when I do these problems, I leave off those front runner zeros here. They just make my problem longer than it needs to be. So I'm going to call this 9 times 4 tenths. You won't get the wrong answer by leaving off that 0. You'll just have less work to do, and I like less work. All right, now I'm going to ignore that decimal point. 4 times 9, we know that. That's 36. 1 digit behind the decimal point in this problem, so 1 digit behind the decimal point in the answer, 3 and 6 tenths. Next one, again, I'm leaving off those front zeros. 6 tenths times 4 tenths, but you could almost do this one in your head. 6 times 4 is 24. 1, 2 digits behind the decimal point in the problem, so 1, 2 digits behind the decimal point in the answer. All right, next one. 12 hundredths times 6 tenths. Didn't worry at all about lining up those decimal points. 6 times 2 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7. All right, now, here's a little problem. I've got 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point in the problem. So I'm going to need 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point in the answer. I'm betting you can figure out that I need to add a 0 right there to make that answer correct. So 12 hundredths times 6 tenths is 72 thousandths. All right. Why don't you stop the video and try this next problem D by yourself and then start it up again and see how you did. Just test yourself, see if you're kind of getting this. All right, let's see how you did. This is 3 4/100. That's the longer number, so I put that on top, times 1 6/10. Did you not worry about lining up those decimals? Just ignore the fact that they're not lined up. 6 times 4 is 24. Put down my 4, carry my 2. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. 6 times 3 is 18. Moving over a digit, so add a 0. Oh, I like this. I'm just multiplying by 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 3 is 3. Add it all up. 4 plus 0 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. 8 plus 0 is 8. 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point. So 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point in my answer. 4 864 thousandths. Alrighty, here's another one. 5 23 hundredths times 4 2/10. Why don't you test yourself again? Try it. Stop the video and go ahead and try this one on your own. Alright, let's see how you did. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. Moving over a digit, add a 0. 4 times 3 is 12. Put my 2 down, carry my 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And 4 times 5 is 20. Got to be really careful to make sure your numbers line up. 6 plus 0 is 6. 4 plus 2 is 6. 0 plus 9 is 9. 1 plus 0 is 1. And 2 plus nothing is 2. All right, 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal points in the problem. So 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point in the answer. All right, one more. Now this one's a little bit of a challenge. See if you can do this one on your own and then tune back in and see how you did. Okay, so 90 71 hundredths. Even though this is a smaller number than this one, it has more digits in it. So we're going to put that on the top, and we're going to multiply by 333. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21, so put down my 1, carry my 2. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. And then 3 times 9 is 27. Now, the nice thing about this is it's multiplying by 3 again. So if I put my 0 down because I've moved over a digit, I can just rewrite all these numbers. Assuming I did my multiplication right the first time, I'll be in good shape. So there's my 3, there's my 1, there's my 2, there's my 7, there's my 2. Do the same thing on the next row. You just got to bump it over. Here's my 3, here's my 1, here's my 2, here's my 7, here's my 2. All right, now we add the whole thing up. 3 plus 1 is 4. 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 plus 3 is 10. Carry my 1. 7, and this 3 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Carry my 1. 7 and 3 is 10. Carry my 1. 3. Okay, 2 numbers behind the decimal point in the problem. So 2 numbers behind the decimal point in the answer. So 30,206 and 43 hundredths. Remember, looks like money, doesn't it? Really does, all right? So go ahead and try this mixed review on your own. Get those done, and we'll go over those in class. This is just a review of everything we've done so far, except for the adding and subtracting. So let's check those out. I'll see you in class. Make sure that you get this in your table of contents and have a page number for it, and then go ahead and make sure that you put that into your journal. I'll see you in class.